Good morning, guys. Today we're going to be talking about sustainability and farming, and we're going to sort of get into our first lesson on agriculture. And it's kind of a weird lesson, so I want you to bear with me. Our lesson today is going to be making a fish sandwich. So I'm going to turn on my screen sharing, and you'll still be able to see and hear me up on the screen, but you're also going to be able to see the slides that I made for this presentation that I had intended to show you live, and now I'm showing you through a recording. All right, so our lesson today is called How to Grow a Fish Sandwich, and we're going to be talking about where our food comes from. So if you were talking about making a fish sandwich and you needed the parts to make a fish sandwich, you'd probably need bread and fish, ketchup, lettuce, any other accoutrements that you like on your sandwiches. And how do these items get into your kitchen? I want you to think for a few minutes about where do those items come from? Because they don't just appear in the kitchen, right? They come from somewhere. So how do they get to your kitchen? So for most of us, we get our food items here at a grocery store, right? We get both raw foods like eggs and fruits and vegetables, and we get processed foods. Now, processed foods are not just food that's in a box, but it's any kind of food that has been through some sort of processing. Milk and our meats have been through some processing, not as much as, say, a frozen dinner, but they still go through some processed foods. Raw foods are really those foods which can go right from the farm to a distribution place. When we think of a farm, this is what we typically think about, right? Sheep and cows and meadows, and looks very idyllic. This would also be something that when you're thinking about a farm, that this would come to mind. This probably a little less so, but I did want to introduce this to you because this is fish farming. And when we talk about ocean sustainability, that is one of the things that comes up is farmed fish. Farmed fish helps us in a lot of ways because it keeps the fish still in the ocean and it controls some of the items that get into our fish. This happens to be a fish farm in Indiana. And you can see those fish tanks are really, really big. They have steps leading up to them. Each of those tanks is bigger than one of our classrooms. This is a catfish farm in South Georgia. This is a farm that was converted from an agricultural field into fish farms, and they made these pools for the fish to grow in, and they age the fish at different rates, and then they harvest the fish out. This is a trout farm, also in South Georgia, I believe. And then this is one thing I want to talk to you about. So when we look at food coming from the farm to the table, there's a lot of steps. In our idyllic sense, we would think that the farmer prepares the food, picks the apples, harvests the wheat, and then it gets right to us, goes right from the farm to us. But that doesn't happen very often in the world that we live in. Occasionally, we can find somebody at a farmer's market. And so it would go from the farm to the farmer's market and then to us. But for the most part, we see food that goes from a farm through transportation to a distributor, to a supermarket, and then to us. And it's a lot of steps. So, for instance, I want to talk about how milk gets to our table. So, step one, And yes, I know I forgot that he had to buy the cow at some point, but let's say step one is that the farmer milks his cow and the milk is collected by a transport company driven to a processing plant. Then the milk is processed and bottled. So we pasteurize milk. That's a whole heating up process. Then it has to get bottled into safe bottles. Then the milk bottles are loaded onto another transport system and taken to supermarkets. The milk is loaded into coolers at supermarkets. And then eventually it gets put in a place where it can be purchased and taken home. It takes about 48 hours from the time the cow is milked to the milk being delivered to the supermarket, and another 48 hours for it to reach your house. So you usually get that milk about 4 days after the cow was milked. Um, it's a big difference now to comparisons of even like 40 and 50 years ago when milk was coming from smaller local dairies and they would pasteurize and bottle the milk in small batches on the dairy or close to the dairy and then deliver it to you within a day really of the milk being produced. So now I want to talk about your your assignment, and what I'd like you to do is to think about where did it come from, okay, and how did it get here? So your assignment is to write the following. What are the steps to get ketchup to the store? Here's my little ketchup bottle. Here's a hint. What is this item made from? You can use as many steps as you like, but list at least 4. Okay, so let's think about what ketchup is made from and how it gets to the store. All right, if you have any questions, send me an email and we will meet up to discuss these steps later in the week. Okay. I hope you guys are doing well. I miss seeing you guys. And I will hopefully get to see you guys soon. Bye.